Hello, welcome to American Baker in Germany. I'm Michelle, and today I am so excited about what we're doing today. Today we are making a Toten Hosen cake. If you are not familiar with the Toten Hosen, they are a German hard rock band, and they're actually local. They're from Düsseldorf, Germany, which is where I'm located. And my husband has been a fan for a very long time, and we asked them permission if we could make this. So these all images are used with permission. So we are making a cake that looks like this. I have made 2 of these, and because I'm going to cut them apart and use them as a template. I'm so excited about what we're doing today, and I really hope you enjoy it as well. Let's go! I had baked 2 10-inch square layers of red velvet cake. I stick it down to my acrylic cake board with cream cheese frosting and fill and frost the cake with it as well. I clean up the cake board with a wet rag and chill the cake for half an hour. I roll out some black fondant and cover the cake with it. I smooth the fondant with my fondant smoother in my hands and cut off the excess with a sharp knife. One corner was just a touch short and allowed the frosting to peek out the bottom, so I rolled out a bit of black fondant and patched the corner with it. Then I rolled out a piece of white fondant and cut out the letters to spell the words Die Toten Hosen. I used the back of a piping tip to cut out the last middle parts of the O's and the D. I clean up the edges with a knife. Then starting in the middle, I took the middle letter and cut it apart, because Die Toten Hosen typically write their name in old-fashioned block letters that were used to spray paint letters where there are gaps in the letters. So I recreate this by cutting the pieces of the letters apart. I glue the letters onto the side of the cake with edible glue. Then I take one of my printed templates and cut out just the star. I had to go over it with my box cutter several times. I think it might be time for a new box cutter. Then I rolled out a piece of red fondant and cut out the star from it. Then I placed it in the middle of my cake. Next, I take my second template, and this time I cut out the skull and crossbones. I start out using the box cutter, but it wasn't really working very well, so I decided to go with old-fashioned scissors to cut out the image. Then I roll out a piece of white fondant, and I cut around my template with a knife. I carefully pick up the white fondant
and place it on top of the star as centered as I can get. I lay my template over my skull and crossbones and run over the black parts with a fondant tool, trying to make an impression. Unfortunately, it just pushed down on my cake and didn't leave an impression in the fondant. So I had to make the impression while just looking at the template. I had debated cutting out pieces of black fondant to make the shading on the image, but that would cause them to be raised, and these shadows should actually be impressions. So in the end, I decided to paint them on with black food coloring. The impression I'm making on my image is just a guide for when I paint it. I make my black paint by mixing black food coloring and clear alcohol. I paint it on with a paintbrush I only use for baking. I start out by making the black stripes on the star. Then I outline my skull, and paint in the eye sockets. Then I fill in the eyebrows and make the star on the forehead. Then I make the nose hole and the teeth. Then I outline the crossbones and make the little shading lines. And our Toten Hosen cake is finished. I love how this cake turned out. I don't often paint my cakes, but it was the right decision for this cake. It turned out really true to the Toten Hosen album cover and reflects the band itself. An Tagen wie diese wünschen wir Unendlichkeit.